Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to challenge you not just to think but to act, not just to dream but to do. The title of this talk is one of the most life-altering principles I've ever taught or lived. Put first things first. This isn't about time management. This is about life leadership. Because if you don't prioritize your life, someone else will. Most of us spend too much time on what is urgent and not enough on what is important. This simple truth is the foundation of chaos in our lives. We live in a world addicted to urgency. Buzzing phones, endless notifications, back-to-back meetings, blinking reminders. We are constantly reacting. And while we may feel productive, the reality is we are often spinning in circles. You see, urgency screams. Importance whispers. But if you only respond to what screams, you'll miss what truly matters. Let me share a story. I once worked with a mid-level manager named Brian. Brian was talented, driven, and incredibly busy. His calendar was a rainbow of appointments. His inbox, over 1,000 unread emails. He prided himself on being responsive. He replied to messages within minutes, always answered his phone, and never missed a meeting. Yet after a decade in his company, Brian hadn't advanced. He wasn't unhappy, but he was tired. He felt like he was always on the treadmill, running hard but going nowhere. During one coaching session, I asked Brian a question that changed everything. What do you want to accomplish that you haven't had time for? He paused, looked up, and said quietly, I want to mentor new employees. I want to develop a leadership training program. But I never get around to it. Why? Because the urgent always got in the way. Urgent things are usually visible. They press on us. They insist on our attention. But just because something is urgent doesn't mean it matters. An email about office supplies is urgent. A sales call scheduled in your calendar is urgent. But building relationships with your children, that's important. Improving your health, important. Clarifying your goals and values, immensely important. And yet, these are often the first things sacrificed. When you operate out of urgency, your days are hijacked. You wake up and immediately check your phone. Before you've even taken a breath of intention, the world is already telling you what to care about. And without realizing it, you become a slave to other people's priorities. You confuse movement with meaning. You become busy, but not effective. The emotional cost is staggering. When you don't tend to the important, you start to feel out of control. You're constantly catching up, constantly responding, constantly juggling. And deep down, there's this aching sense that you're not living your best life. That the things that matter most, your faith, your family, your growth, are slipping through your fingers like sand. You feel it late at night when the house is quiet. You feel it when you miss your son's game again. You feel it when you look in the mirror and wonder where the last 5 years went. But here's the truth. You can choose differently. You can begin to shift from urgency to importance. It starts by becoming aware. Start by tracking how you spend your time. For 1 week, categorize your activities. Ask yourself, was this urgent? Was this important? Was it both? Was it neither? You'll be shocked by how much of your time is consumed by things that are neither urgent nor important. Scrolling through social media, reading pointless articles, sitting in unproductive meetings. Then you must take the next step, eliminate the non-essential. Delegate what you can. Automate what you should. Say no more often. And most critically, schedule time for the important. Don't just hope it happens. Make it happen. Block off time in your calendar for reflection, for planning, for meaningful conversations, for exercise, for learning. Protect that time like it's sacred, because it is. This is not about becoming rigid. It's about becoming intentional. You begin to see the difference between being in motion and making progress, between reacting to what life throws at you and designing the life you want. And when you begin to live this way, something powerful happens. You reclaim your time. You reclaim your purpose. You stop feeling pulled in 100 directions. Instead, you move with clarity, with conviction, with calm. Let me challenge you this week. Every morning, before you look at your phone, ask yourself one question. What's the most important thing I can do today? Then do it. Don't wait, delay. Don't let urgency steal it. Put first things first and watch your life realign. Your relationships deepen. Your energy return. Your sense of direction come alive again. Put first things first, not just as a mantra, as a way of life. You don't drift into a meaningful life. You design one. The second habit, beginning with the end in mind, is not about fantasizing or wishing. It's about intentional creation. It's about clarifying what truly matters to you and then building everything else around that vision. Most people live by default. They wake up and do what they did yesterday. They chase jobs, money, praise, approval. They follow someone else's script. What society says is success, what their parents expected, what their peers are doing. But real fulfillment doesn't come from following someone else's path. It comes from crafting your own. A client of mine, her name was Maria, came to me frustrated. She had everything the world tells you to want. Money, a great job title, a beautiful home. But she felt empty. She told me, I feel like I'm running fast in a race I don't want to win. I asked her to do a simple, powerful exercise. I told her, write your own eulogy. Imagine your funeral. Imagine your children, your spouse, your closest friends standing up and speaking about your life. What do you want them to say? At first she resisted. It felt too dark. But she did it. And what came out shocked her. She didn't write about her job or her awards. She didn't write about her income or her possessions. She wrote about how she hoped her children would remember her hugs, her patience, her laughter. She wrote about wanting to be a person who lifted others, who served with integrity, who loved deeply. That eulogy changed everything. She began shifting her life to align with that vision. She left a toxic work culture. She started her own small business with more flexibility. Most importantly, she became present in her own life again. The truth is, if you don't define success for yourself, you'll chase someone else's definition. And you might achieve it, only to feel like you've lost something far more valuable along the way. When you begin with the end in mind, you gain a kind of inner compass. You stop living reactively. You start living deliberately. You ask better questions. Not just, what do I want to do today? But, does today move me closer to who I want to become? The emotional impact of living without vision is subtle, but devastating. You feel adrift. You get caught up in minor things. You're busy, but you're not fulfilled. You say yes to things that don't match your values, and no to things that actually matter. Deep down, you know you're off course, but you can't quite put your finger on why. It's like sailing without a destination. You can have strong winds and still be completely lost. But when you live with the end in mind, you bring clarity into your life. Clarity produces courage. You stop asking for permission. You stop trying to please everyone. You start saying no to what doesn't fit and yes to what does. Even if it's hard, even if it's unpopular, because your life is now guided by a vision, not by pressure or comparison. Start by defining what legacy means to you. Not just professionally, but personally. What kind of spouse do you want to be remembered as? What kind of parent, sibling, friend, leader? What kind of human being? Write it out. Be specific. Don't write what sounds good. Write what's true to your soul. Let that vision become the blueprint for your decisions. Every role you play in life should be guided by the kind of character you want to build. This isn't just about long-term thinking. It's about daily living. When you know the end you're aiming for, every choice becomes easier. You begin asking, does this move me closer to the life I want to create, or further away from it? Imagine starting every day with that filter. Imagine ending each day knowing you moved a step closer to the life that actually matters to you. So here is your challenge. Carve out 1 hour. No distractions. No devices. Just you and a pen. Write your personal mission statement. Write your legacy. Not the one others expect. The one your heart longs for. And then read it every morning for 30 days. Let it recalibrate your choices, your calendar, your conversations. Let it remind you why you're here and where you're going. You are not a product of your past. You are a product of your vision. And when you begin with the end in mind, you no longer chase a life. You create it, one intentional day at a time. Quadrant I is where life transformation happens. It's where leadership is born, relationships are nurtured, and growth is sustained. Yet it's the quadrant most often neglected. Let me explain. Every activity in your life falls into one of four categories: urgent and important, urgent but not important, important but not urgent, and neither urgent nor important. Quadrant A, important but not urgent, is the sweet spot. This is the zone of prevention planning, relationship building, personal growth, and deep thinking. It's where you prepare instead of repair, but it rarely screams for your attention. That's why so many people ignore it until it's too late. I once worked with a CEO who lived in constant firefighting mode. His days were jammed with back-to-back meetings, crises, last-minute changes, and employee issues. He told me, "I feel like I'm spinning plates, and they're all about to fall." I asked him, "When's the last time you blocked an hour just to think?" He laughed. "Think? I don't have time to think. I'm too busy fixing problems." That was the problem. He was so focused on solving immediate issues that he never invested time in preventing them. I challenged him to block out 1 hour every morning for what I call deep, quadrant A work. He resisted at first. But once he committed, everything changed. That time became sacred. He used it to clarify strategy, review goals, coach team members proactively, and identify patterns behind recurring issues. Within months, the number of daily crises dropped dramatically. Why? Because he finally prioritized the activities that kept fires from starting in the first place. Most people spend the majority of their time in quadrant I, urgent and important. These are the real deadlines, the sick child, the broken water pipe, the client complaint. Quadrant I is necessary, but if you live there constantly, you burn out. Then there's quadrant IV, urgent but not important. These are interruptions that feel critical but aren't. Phone calls, emails, unplanned meetings. They drain your energy without moving your mission forward. And finally, quadrant IV, neither urgent nor important. Mindless scrolling, binge watching, procrastination. This is the dead zone of time. Quadrant I is where real effectiveness lies. But here's the challenge: it takes discipline. You won't be reminded to invest in it. No alarm will go off telling you to plan your week, or go for a walk, or have a heart-to-heart with your spouse. These things are easy to postpone, and because they're not urgent, they don't get scheduled. But when you neglect them, the cost shows up later, as broken relationships, lost health, unclear direction, or reactive leadership. The emotional toll of ignoring quadrant is subtle but profound. You start to feel disconnected from yourself, from your goals, from the people you care about. Life feels busy but shallow. You're always moving but not growing. That quiet voice inside you, the one that says, "You were made for more," it gets drowned out by the noise of urgency. And eventually, you begin to believe that the urgent things are the only things that matter. That's when you lose your sense of purpose. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can build your life around quadrant. It starts with a simple but powerful shift. Schedule it. Don't wait for the perfect time. There is no perfect time. Make time. Block out an hour each morning, or even just 30 minutes. Use that time to reflect, read, journal, plan, connect, or think strategically. Schedule regular date nights. Plan your meals for the week. Evaluate your goals. Practice your faith. Whatever matters most to you, put it on the calendar before everything else fills up. Think of quadrant II like investing money. The earlier and more consistently you invest, the greater the return over time. And just like money, the returns are often invisible at first. But compound interest is real. When you invest in your health, your learning, your family, your mission, you may not see immediate results, but years down the line, the return is exponential. Here's a challenge you can begin today. For the next 7 days, schedule at least 30 minutes a day in quadrant II. Guard it fiercely. Let no urgent distraction take its place. Use that time intentionally. Then at the end of the week, Reflect, how did you feel? What changed? What clarity did you gain? Most people live by the clock. The effective live by the compass. And your compass, the one that keeps you moving toward your best self, lives in quadrant teller. You won't find it on your phone. You won't find it in your inbox. You'll find it when you slow down, look within, and start putting your most important priorities, your real life, back on the schedule. Saying yes is easy. It feels polite, agreeable, even generous. But every yes you give comes at a cost, because time is finite, energy is limited, and focus is fragile. One of the greatest challenges in life is learning to say no to good things so you can say yes to great things. It's not about rejecting opportunities for the sake of it. It's about being ruthlessly clear on what truly matters to you and having the courage to protect it. You cannot live a life of purpose and impact if you keep diluting your focus with well-intentioned distractions. I worked with a young entrepreneur named Derek. Bright, driven, full of ideas. His calendar was packed with networking events, side projects, speaking engagements, and collaboration requests. Every week, someone new wanted to pick his brain. He said yes to almost all of them. On the surface, it looked like he was making great progress. His social media was active. He was always on the move. But behind the scenes, his core business was suffering. He wasn't hitting his revenue goals. He wasn't building the systems he needed. Most importantly, he was exhausted. During one session, I asked him, "What is your highest impact activity right now?" He paused and said, "I know exactly what it is, but I haven't touched it in 3 weeks." That was the moment everything changed for him. He began tracking every yes he said, and he realized that most of them weren't aligned with his mission. They were just distractions disguised as opportunities. He began saying no, politely, firmly, purposefully. He reclaimed his time and reinvested it into his business, his health, and his personal growth. Within months, everything shifted. This is the hidden danger. Most distractions don't look like distractions. They look like good things. An invitation to volunteer, a side hustle, a request for help, a new project, a client outside your niche, a speaking engagement that could lead to something. But if it's not aligned with your values and vision, it's not an opportunity. It's an interruption. And if you keep saying yes to everything, your life becomes scattered. You do a lot of things halfway, but nothing excellently. You end up tired, frustrated, and quietly resentful. Because deep down, you know you're giving your energy to things that don't move the needle. There's also an emotional toll when you keep saying yes out of fear. Fear of disappointing people, fear of missing out, fear of being seen as selfish. You slowly betray yourself. You begin living by other people's expectations instead of your own intentions. That inner voice that once knew what mattered starts to fade. You lose your sense of direction. And ironically, the more you say yes, the more overwhelmed and disconnected you feel. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can reclaim your focus. You can realign with your purpose. It starts with clarity. Get clear on what you truly value. What is your mission? What are your top priorities this season? Not forever. Just for now. Maybe it's building your business, being more present with your children, restoring your health, deepening your spiritual life. Whatever it is, define it. Write it down. Make it visible. And let that clarity become your filter. When a new request comes in, don't respond immediately. Ask yourself, does this align with my top priorities? Does this serve the mission I've chosen for this season of life? If the answer is no, then you must be willing to say no, even if it's a good thing. This takes courage. But every powerful person you admire has mastered this. They are not successful because they do everything. They are successful because they've learned to do the right things, deeply and consistently. Saying no isn't rude, it's responsible. It's how you protect your energy for what matters most. So here's a challenge. Make a not-to-do list. List out the activities, habits, requests, and distractions you need to start saying no to. Then take it a step further. Practice your no. Write out phrases like, "I'm honored you thought of me," but I'm not available right now, or that's not aligned with my current focus. The more confident you become in your no, the more powerful your yes becomes. You are not obligated to do everything you're good at. You're not responsible for meeting everyone's expectations. You are here for a purpose. Protect it. Guard it. Say no to good so you can say yes to great. Because the life you want isn't built on everything. It's built on the right few things done with intention, consistency, and heart. There's something powerful about a week. It's short enough to keep our attention, yet long enough to make meaningful progress. Too many people try to plan their lives day by day, reacting to whatever shows up on the calendar. But when you live one day at a time without the context of a bigger rhythm, life becomes fragmented. You get pulled into urgency, caught in a cycle of reaction, and end the week wondering what you actually accomplished. But when you learn to plan your week with intention, when you design it around your values, not your inbox, you begin to feel the quiet force of momentum. Weekly planning isn't about squeezing more into your schedule. It's about putting the right things in first. I worked with a leader named Carla who was exceptional at getting things done. Her days were full, her calendar color-coded, and her productivity high. But she still felt like something was off. She said, "I'm accomplishing tasks, but I don't feel fulfilled." When we looked deeper, we discovered she was scheduling everything except what mattered most. Her calendar reflected her job, but not her values. Her professional life was well managed, but her roles as a mother, friend, and community member were being left to chance. I introduced her to a weekly planning process rooted in the principle of balance. Each week, she identified her key roles: leader, mentor, mother, friend, individual, and set one meaningful goal for each. These weren't massive goals. They were intentional acts. A lunch with her son, a phone call to an old friend, a personal reflection hour, a coaching session with an employee. She began scheduling those goals before anything else. That one shift changed her life. Her week became a reflection of who she wanted to be, not just what she needed to do. Most people underestimate the power of a week. They think of goals in terms of years and days, but the week is the sweet spot. A week allows you to adjust, to course correct, and to integrate your many roles. It's not about perfection. It's about presence. When you plan your week with intention, you no longer live at the mercy of your calendar. You become the architect of your time. And when you give structure to what matters, you create freedom from what doesn't. There's also an emotional benefit that people overlook. Weekly planning creates peace. It quiets the mental clutter. It helps you walk into Monday with clarity instead of anxiety. Most stress doesn't come from having too much to do. It comes from not knowing what to do next. When you don't have a plan, every task feels urgent. Every request feels like an obligation. But when you've already chosen what matters, the rest becomes noise. The weekly plan becomes your compass. It helps you say no with confidence because you've already said yes to what matters. It helps you move through your days with purpose, not panic. And perhaps most importantly, it helps you track progress over time. Small wins every week add up to transformation over months and years. Think of it this way. If you accomplish one meaningful goal in each of your key roles every week, that's 52 high-impact actions per role each year. That's 52 deposits into your relationships, 52 steps toward your personal growth, 52 decisions rooted in principle, not pressure. That's how greatness is built, not in one grand gesture, but in consistent, intentional action. So how do you start? Set aside 30 minutes each weekend. Sunday night for many people works well. Begin by reviewing your mission or long-term vision. Then identify your current roles. List them: parent, professional, friend, volunteer, self. Under each role, write one meaningful goal for the week. What's one thing you can do to nourish that part of your life? Then schedule it. Don't leave it to chance. Put it on the calendar before your week fills up with noise. After that, look at your tasks and commitments. Prioritize them based on importance, not urgency. Ask yourself, What truly moves me toward the life I want to live? That's what gets scheduled first. Make this a ritual. Light a candle. Play calming music. Pour a cup of tea. Treat this as sacred time, because it is. You are not just planning your week. You are shaping your life. You are choosing to live by design, not by default. So don't let another week slip by in a blur of business. Don't let the urgent keep stealing from the important. Take control. Sit down. Reflect. Decide. Commit. And begin your week not with stress, but with strategy. Not with overload, but with order. When you plan your week with intention, you walk into each day already aligned. You lead your life instead of letting life lead you. Discipline is the bridge between intention and achievement. It's the quiet power behind every great life, every lasting relationship, every meaningful result. Most people wait for motivation. They wait to feel ready. They wait until the stars align and everything feels just right. But the truth is, you won't always feel like doing what matters. You won't always be inspired to work out, or to study, or to write, or to initiate a difficult conversation. That's where discipline comes in. Discipline is showing up when it's hard. Discipline is doing the right thing, even when you don't feel like it. Discipline is honoring your values more than your moods. I once coached a man named Robert who wanted to write a book. He had a powerful story, a compelling message, and a burning desire to share it. But he couldn't seem to get started. I need to feel inspired, he'd say. I need the right environment. So he'd wait until the weekend, until vacation, until he felt more creative. Weeks turned into months, and not a single page was written. One day I asked him, what if you stopped waiting for inspiration and just committed to 10 minutes a day? He hesitated, but he agreed. Every morning, he set his alarm 30 minutes earlier and wrote for just 10 minutes. Before the world could interrupt, before his excuses could take over. Some mornings he hated it. Some mornings he only wrote a paragraph, but he kept showing up. And after 90 days, he had the first draft of his book. That's the power of discipline. The emotional truth is this: we overestimate the power of big decisions and underestimate the impact of small, consistent action. It's not the occasional burst of effort that changes your life. It's the daily choice to align your actions with your values. That's what builds integrity. That's what creates momentum. Discipline is not punishment. It's not about living a rigid, joyless life. It's about living in alignment with what you say matters most. And when your daily actions reflect your deepest priorities, you experience a kind of peace and confidence that motivation alone can never give you. But let's be honest, discipline is not glamorous. It doesn't always feel good. You might feel tired, distracted, overwhelmed, tempted to quit. That's normal. The secret is not to eliminate resistance. The secret is to outlast it. When you train yourself to act in spite of how you feel, you build mental toughness. You build emotional muscle. You stop being a slave to your moods and start becoming the kind of person who follows through. There's a deeper layer to this. When you consistently keep promises to yourself, no matter how small, you build self-trust. You stop doubting your ability to follow through. You stop negotiating with yourself. You start believing, I do what I say I'm going to do. That belief is foundational. Because once you believe in your own consistency, you become unstoppable. You stop waiting for the world to change. You start changing yourself. Start with something simple. Identify one non-negotiable habit that supports your most important goal. Maybe it's 15 minutes of reading. Maybe it's walking every day. Maybe it's journaling or prayer or preparing healthy meals. Whatever it is, define it clearly. Then schedule it. Put it in your calendar like a meeting with your future self. And when it gets hard, and it will, remind yourself that your emotions are not in charge. Your values are. I call this the minimum standard ritual. It's not about doing everything perfectly. It's about doing something consistently. Let go of the all or nothing mindset. Progress is built on momentum, not perfection. When you show up for your ritual, even on the bad days, you prove to yourself that you are committed, that you are resilient, that you are serious about your future. This doesn't just change your habits, it changes your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries. You start seeing yourself as someone who trains, someone who builds, who invests, who perseveres. The identity shift is what sustains you when motivation fades. Because now you're not just doing the thing. You've become the kind of person who does the thing. So here's your challenge. Choose one area of your life where discipline is missing but needed. Then design your minimum standard ritual. Commit to it for the next 30 days. Track it. Protect it. Don't negotiate with yourself. And on the days when you don't feel like it, especially on those days, do it anyway. That's how you build a life of excellence. Not by waiting, but by working. Not by wishing, but by doing, one disciplined step at a time. Pressure is a part of life. Deadlines, expectations, demands. They come from every direction, pulling at our time, attention, and energy. Most people live reactive lives, constantly responding to external pressures. They make decisions based on urgency, social norms, fear of judgment, or a need to please others. But there's a better way to live, a deeper, more grounded way. It's the way of principles. When you build your life on principles instead of pressure, you create a strong inner core, a foundation that doesn't waver when things get hard. You don't crumble under stress. You lead yourself and others with clarity, courage, and conviction. I once worked with a woman named Elaine, a senior leader in a fast-paced company. She was smart, capable, and constantly under pressure. Her team looked up to her, but she felt like she was drowning. Decisions came at her fast. Tight budgets, tough conversations, shifting targets. She told me, "I just do whatever feels like the right fix in the moment. I'm always in survival mode." I asked her a simple question. "What principles are you using to guide your decisions?" She paused. "Honestly, I don't know. I'm just trying to keep things from falling apart." That was her wake-up call. We began working together to define her core principles. Honesty, empathy, accountability, long-term thinking, and courage. Once she had those written down, everything changed. In every situation, she began asking, "What does this principle call for in this moment?" Instead of reacting out of stress or fear, she responded with intention. And because she led from the inside out, her influence deepened. Her team felt safer, more aligned, and more inspired. Living by principle doesn't mean life gets easier. It means you get stronger. When pressure hits, and it will, you don't spin out in panic. You anchor yourself in what you believe. You don't compromise your values for convenience. You don't chase the easy path. You stay rooted in what matters. And that kind of integrity is rare. It's powerful. It commands respect not just from others, but from yourself. There's a kind of quiet strength that comes from principle-centered living. You stop needing external validation to feel grounded. You stop being tossed around by moods, headlines, or peer pressure. You find your compass and you follow it, even when others don't understand, even when it costs you something, even when it's hard. That's how trust is built. That's how legacies are formed. Without principles, life becomes reactive. You start making choices based on how you feel in the moment. You get swept up in what's popular, what's trending, what others are doing. You start compromising your standards for short-term relief. And slowly you lose yourself. You become someone you don't recognize, someone who's busy, productive, maybe even successful on the outside, but misaligned on the inside. But when you choose to live by principle, you reclaim control. You move from reaction to reflection. You begin asking deeper questions. What kind of person do I want to be in this situation? What outcome aligns with my values, not just my comfort? What would I choose if fear wasn't in the way? These questions reconnect you with your integrity. They sharpen your decision-making. They restore your confidence. This approach applies to every area of life. Your work, your relationships, your leadership, your health, your finances. When you define your principles, you set boundaries without guilt. You lead your team without being a tyrant or a pushover. You parent with consistency, not confusion. You pursue goals with focus, not frenzy. Here's how you begin. Choose your top 5 core principles. Not what sounds good, but what truly matters to you. Maybe it's honesty, compassion, growth, faith, excellence, humility, or service. Define what each one means in your own words. Then ask yourself, am I living these principles consistently? Where am I compromising? What needs to change? Write your principles down. Post them somewhere visible. Review them weekly. Use them as your decision-making filter. When a tough choice shows up, when the pressure mounts, when emotions run high, go back to your principles. Let them be the voice of clarity in the chaos. And if you lead others, whether a team, a family, a community, model this way of living. Show them what it looks like to choose principle over popularity, character over comfort, values over shortcuts. Because when you lead from principle, you give others permission to do the same. You elevate the culture around you. You don't need to control everything. You just need to stay anchored in what's true. Let pressure come. Let challenges rise. When your life is built on principles, you won't just survive. You'll lead. You'll grow and you'll thrive, one decision at a time. One moment of integrity at a time. One courageous stand at a time.